Now I'm at the park. I'm at the Grove, and this is Wednesday, so this is gonna be a very pretty typically good YouTube video. I didn't think that my sex game, reading books versus TV and film was gonna be a well-received video on my other channel, but the views is just growing and growing and growing. So I'm gonna try to keep my content clean and PG as possible, because Matt Cross from the 33 Secrets did a video like about a week ago, and it got demonetized and taken down. And this is what I keep trying to tell you guys who watch my YouTube videos, who view my videos, subscribe, and watch over and over and over. This is what I keep trying to tell you guys, that YouTube's not playing. If they think your video is highly offensive to women, that means if your videos come off too critical and too highly offensive to black women, white women, Mexican women, if it comes off highly offensive to women in general, they will demonetize your video and then take the video down and then send you a message saying, oh, it violated our community guidelines. So it's unfortunate they took down Matt Cross's video, but I think he should have known that at some point they were going to take the video down. It's like you make a video that kind of rubs people the wrong way. It happened to me early this year. You know, I had a video that I had and they took it down and told me the same thing. You violated our community guidelines. I'm pretty sure YouTube probably shaking their head like, yeah, we told you guys plenty of times, if we see something we don't like, we take it down. So I don't know if he's going to continue his career on YouTube. I'm pretty sure he might do maybe one more video, and if they take that down, he just might quit YouTube, because this ain't the first time he's had a video taken down. He's had some videos in the past taken down, and I try to you know stray away from certain content that might be a little bit too sensitive for your eyes and ears, and try to get to something that's more fun and laid back, and every now and then try to give you something serious. So let's go ahead and I'll give you the video that I promised to give you. Sex game I missed the 1980s and the 1990s television and film versus film of the 2000s and late 2000s. Now, there have been some good movies that have come out recently. Like, a lot of people in the beginning was happy with the Marvel Cinematic Universe because it started off with Iron Man. You know, we got Iron Man 2, we got the Incredible Hulk, then we had Thor, then we had Captain America, First Avenger, movies to set up the cinematic universe. But then you have some timeless classics from the 80s. Like, I'm going to start off with television shows first. Like, for me, as a kid, the cartoon was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I loved me some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I loved it so much that I always, after I came home from kindergarten school, by the way, that's a crow. By the way, by the time I came home and got in front of the TV, I just wanted to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's all I wanted to watch. I didn't care about nothing else. It was Ninja Turtles. You know, I loved He-Man. I liked the Thundercats. I liked Batman and Superman as a kid growing up. And then as we got further into the 1990s, everybody and their mama can tell you that in the 1990s, we moved from the Ninja Turtles, and then we had a show that just blew us away. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I was a big-time Power Ranger fan. 5 days a week, I would watch every single episode of Power Rangers. It didn't matter if they could have had it on for 2 hours or 3 hours. I would watch every single episode. You put it on in the morning, I'll watch Power Rangers. You put it on in the afternoon or night, I would watch Power Rangers. I would sometimes sneak off when my mom wasn't paying attention, and I would videotape every single episode. And then right in the middle of its television run, they weren't doing too good in the ratings, so they had to come up with a fast concept to keep you watching, because at that time they were trying to compete with the NBA, the NFL, you know, the baseball, hockey. They're trying to compete with sports. And then if you were watching Channel 2 and Channel 4 and Channel 7, they had all of these soap opera television shows on in the late 80s, early 1990s. Some of y'all are already in your 30s, 40s, But people that are in their 40s, their 50s, and their 60s, they know what I'm talking about. There were them shows like General Hospital, All My Children, One Life to Live. They had a lot of these shows on primetime television. And because it was primetime television, they was trying to compete. So they decided, what if we, instead of having 5 Power Rangers, what if we created an evil Power Ranger? That it created a character by the name of Tommy Oliver that was the Green Ranger, and he got the most attention out of that whole television show, played by actor Jason David Frank, who just happened to be a real martial artist. He had did some acting, he had did modeling, and I think he said in his life story that he was gonna audition for a television show that was just like Power Rangers called VR Troopers. It was a short-lived television show. I mean, it only got like 3 seasons, 1 television movie, and they even had a crossover where I remember in season 2 and season 3 of the Power Rangers, they would do these Power Ranger crossovers. It would be who could stop the Power Rangers. Like, they were trying to make the Power Rangers be like the Thundercats. Like the Thundercats and the not VR Troopers, but Voltron. Everyone started calling the Power Rangers, I think in the late 80s, early 90s, they would call the Power Rangers a ripoff of Voltron. Because Voltron had, you know, a person dressed in red, so you figured that's where they got the motivation and the inspiration. In Japan, they already had their own version of Power Rangers. I think they would call them Golden Rangers or something. I'm not too sure. I'll double check. And America loved it so much and created Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And then, of course, when you watch the television lineup, you could see that when they got the Green Ranger on, their ratings would slowly go up, 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 and it hit a peak. By season 2, you know, they created the White Ranger, and then next when they started doing these television spinoffs, they would do Masked Rider. Masked Rider lasted for about 2 seasons. VR Troopers got 3 seasons. There was Big Bad Beetleborgs that got 3 seasons. And then they started saying, what if we took all these characters and put them on the Power Rangers and see how well they perform? So they ended up doing Power Rangers versus VR Troopers, which the Power Rangers won. Made good for good storytelling. They did Power Rangers versus Big Bad Beetleborgs. Power Rangers won that. And then of course they had whatchamacallit, they had Power Rangers versus Masked Rider, which was the only one that they got to team up with. And then of course, when we got to like 95, 96, or close to 97, you could tell they started to struggle as far as television, because they threw every concept that they could possibly think of with a television show. You know, and when we got to Power Rangers in Space, it started to get real serious. I remember they were complaining in magazines that the Power Rangers TV show was getting on the verge of being PG-13. They started to make it a little too serious. They made it where the Power Rangers would actually fight and, you know, put them in adult situations. Like, it was getting a little too serious. And they wanted to be kid-friendly, so ultimately Power Rangers the show started to lose its popularity. You know, after, you know, Power Rangers in Space season 2, that was the end of that. And then it was off to watching wrestling. Well, that's when I'm like, all of the 1990s, if Power Rangers wasn't on, if basketball and football wasn't on, I would be watching professional wrestling. Now, back in the day, it was called World Wrestling Federation, and then they changed it to WWE because Vince McMahon got took into court, and he settled out of court because the Wildlife Foundation wanted that initial trademark, so he had to change it. That's why every time somebody tries to do a wrestling video, they have to put WWE, because if they try to put the original trademark for wrestling, your video will get demonetized and taken off of YouTube. Like, YouTube will get you before WWE will get you. So, yeah, I used to watch WWE back in the day. It was the 1990s. They had a lot of good wrestlers back in that heyday. And I'm going to put on my other channel my first episode, WWE Who's Better The Undertaker versus Bret Hart in his prime. That's going to be the first episode on another alternate YouTube channel that all it's going to do is talk about television, film, anime, wrestling. That's what that channel will be for. Because I got way too much content. Back in the 1990s, if you weren't watching Power Rangers, you was watching professional wrestling. They had guys that were actual stars, not these guys today that think they're stars, but I go back to that time period. And then further into those 2000s, when you grew out of Power Rangers, when you grew out of professional wrestling, and you started to lose some interest in the NBA and the NFL, you started to watch Jerry Springer. I'm pretty sure a lot of us remember Jerry Springer. A lot of y'all are now in your 20s, your 30s. Hell, you might be in your 40s and say, I remember that television show. That show's been on for the past 22 years. Like, that show came like in 93, 94, and that's what was whooping the Power Rangers on primetime television. It was Jerry Springer. It was like, wait a minute. They in here talking about girls being dots and girls being Miss Pericus. And instead of watching Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles, you started channel surfing, and what came on? Jerry Springer. And that kind of kicked off the television shows that we see today. If it weren't for Jerry Springer and what's that other show? Steve Wilkos, and there's another one. There's actually three, but I'm naming all the main one. If it weren't for them shows, you wouldn't even get the TV shows that we get today. Like, if it weren't for Jerry Springer, you would have never got Basketball Wives of Miami, which now they just entitle it Basketball Wives. You would have never got Football Wives or Baseball Wives or Real Housewives of Atlanta. You would have never got none of those television shows if it was not for Jerry Springer. It gave birth to all these television shows today. Think about it. Every time you see a TV talk show, they always try to stage it up like it's Jerry Springer because of the popularity. Like 2002, 2003, they wanted to revamp Jerry Springer and make you go on cable, pay-per-view, and order Jerry Springer Too Hot for Television. It's been on for the past 22 years. I mean, you could be a millennial and turn on the TV on some channel, and somehow, some way, you'll watch Jerry Springer. You can go on your smartphone and just type up Jerry Springer, and it'll show up on your television. I mean, okay, it was scripted. It was, it was entertainment. It wasn't always 100% real, but it was good entertainment. Now, you look at all of the television shows today, right? A lot of these television shows today are like recycled. Like, literally, they're recyclable. Like, how many times can you remake 9210? When they rebooted 9210, it was nowhere near as good as the original. Okay, they brought back some original characters, but they waited until like season 2, season 3, and season 4 to get some of the original characters to come back to see, hey, it's still canon. That's when they started taking stuff from movies and bringing it to TV. And then, because it wasn't a well-received reboot, they tried to reboot Melrose Place. They tried to reboot it, and it only lasted like less than 5 episodes. Like, it only had 5 episodes and it was canceled. And then, as if that wasn't enough for your entertainment amusement, they tried to bring in a concept like Gossip Girl, right? If you look at Riverdale, that is like a rehash of Gossip Girl. Beat for beat, step for step is the same thing all over again. Now, I'm not trying to bag on the television show Riverside or Riverdale, whatever you call it on the CW network. What I'm saying is, it's literally beat for beat a repeat of Gossip Girl. And then if you look at Vampire Diaries, that's like 9210 all over again. Just throw me some vampires, throw me some werewolves in, and you got 9210 Melrose Place all over again. Like, the originals would be like Melrose Place. It's real serious, real acting drama. So if you like the originals, it's like Melrose Place. You look at Vampire Diaries, it's just like 9210. And then you get shows that imitate it, and you'd be like, why all these shows sound the same? Why all the characters on all these different television shows all sound the same. Because they all have the same writers, same film company. And back in the 90s, there was a lot of originality. It had a lot of originality. They came up with ideas that, to this day, even though when you watch them on DVD, like when I buy the Power Rangers on DVD, I go back to the time to, yeah, that was some good television. Today, people complain like I've spoken to like 9 people. That's why I made that other video called Sex Game, Books versus TV and film, which better? Where a lot of people, I would name off a show, and they would be naming off stuff from the 80s and the 90s. Or from the early 2000s, right? Like, I remember somebody made a YouTube video on YouTube 5 years ago called Vampire Diaries, and the originals is complete carbon copies of Angel and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And when you think about it, yeah, it is true, because if you look at Angel, he was on Buffy for like 3 seasons, and then he got his own spinoff. You look at the character Klaus Nickerson, and then you look at Elijah and Rebecca, they were on Vampire Diaries for like almost 4 seasons, and then they got their own television show. So yeah, if you look at Vampire Diaries, it's just like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like beat for beat, step for step, Vampire Diaries is just like 90210 and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy the Vampire Slayer got 7 seasons. Vampire Diaries gets 8 seasons. You know, and then you look at the originals, that gets like 5 seasons, right? Literally 5 seasons. Angel gets 5 seasons. And then when you could have made a season 6 out of Angel, or you could have made a season 6 out of the originals, those shows get canceled because, okay, you know, that was just a spinoff. You know, that was to put it in its own set universe. So it's like, yeah, you watch these shows, these just remind you of stuff that came in the 90s. And when they give it to you, they expect you to act like it's new and it's fresh. You know, the situations, all the characters. Like, you look at Damien Satire from Vampire Diaries. He reminds you of Spike. They both do the same thing. If you look at the story, character development, they both do the same thing. You look at Stefan, that's like Angel all over again. You look at Yelena, that's Buffy Summers all over again. So it's like when we got further into the 2000s, it's like, do you guys have any originality, or do you guys come up with something new that'll make me watch? And then you have shows that do grab my interest, but they only last 2 or 3 seasons and they're canceled. Like Dracula. It was good. They had it for 2 seasons and then they canceled it. Hannibal Lecter, that got like almost 3 seasons canceled. They tried to reboot Knight Rider, the television show, canceled. So they had some concepts that were new, like, let's try to show the guys when they're younger. Like, some people get mad when you take a character from a television show of the 70s or the 80s and you try to repackage it in a new TV spinoff and say it's the same character but it's for the new generation. But then they change up certain stuff about the character. Same thing with TV shows. So part 1 is all about television shows. I'll make a part 2 depending on how well received this is, and focus on how the movies have changed from the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s to the late 2000s. I want to see how fast and how good this is well received. If it's not received very well, if it only gets like maybe 5 to 10 views, I still might make part 2. But if it gets like 30 or 40 views, then I might make a part 2 focusing on the movies. Till then, peace.